will comply now.
I am not in the realm of confidence. I'm in the realm of observing what takes place.
Mr. Alexander, the Constitution speaks to the chairman being advised by the CEO. Does it mean that if he doesn't comply with our instructions tomorrow, they would have to remove him as the chief election officer?
I don't know that they will have to remove him. The fact that she has preemptively said if he doesn't do it, will ask the DCU, leaves that as a question that's not yet on the table.
What did she make of the CEO's non-compliance with her request so far?
She simply gave a ruling in a judge-like manner as to what should happen hereafter. There was no reference to what you're asking about.
Did she say anything this morning?
There was no reference to what you're asking.
And how do you feel about her instructions to the CEO now?
I'm not in agreement with those instructions, but those are her instructions. And her instructions are buttressed by the support of 3 commissioners.
Could you say what the CEO has said in all of this when that request was made?
He's been patently silent.
And what do you make of that silence?
I'm outside of his head. I wouldn't attempt to go
Did he
in.
defend himself for his decision today in the meeting?
He said today in the meeting that as far as he's concerned, he was acting within the law. Very short statement.
Were there other proposals made today by the other
My own
commissioners?
disposition I've made known in the past is that if we are in fact to assuage the contesting parties, as we said in the order, then the best option for us is a non-declaration. The fact that it was argued that we can use the declarations of the 10 regions has to do with strict law. If you look at strict law, forget content. If you look at strict law, the 10 declarations have not been contested. The only issue in the past which was placed before the 10 declarations was this issue of contempt. That issue no longer exists. There's no legal action that questions the 10 declarations. So procedurally, those 10 declarations are available for the purpose of determining the result.
But
my humble opinion.
But there are those who say the 10 declarations include the bloated Region 4 results, which are always in contest.
There has been no legal directive. And what one needs to understand is the system in which we are working. The judge said unequivocally, when the matter was taken, that they cannot interfere into the administrative operations except to say they must follow procedure. And my understanding is that Mingo went back and followed procedure. The court has stepped away from that. The court, go read judgment, this court has stepped away from that.
So you still have the order remaining in force,
Which order?
the recount order.
The argumentation is that much of what the CCJ has said nullifies the application.
But no order was issued to nullify it.
Huh?
No order was issued.
Well, no order was issued at all, so you could just drop the whole CCJ thing if that's the position.
To nullify the order.
There was no order, period, issued by the CCJ. None. If you look at the summary conclusions of the CCJ, what did they say? The summary conclusion.
One of the orders was to do away with the.
Let me give you the summary
with the
conclusion.
report that was tabled by Mr.
Let me give you their summary conclusion. I don't want to surmise. Tell you what their summary conclusion was. Just a moment. Just let me get to that. Summary and orders of the court. This is the CCJ's decision. It follows from all that is stated above that under the laws of Ghana, this court has jurisdiction to hear and determine the application of Mrs. Ali and Jagdio set aside the decision of the appeal and set aside the decision of the appeal court. That decision was made without jurisdiction on the part of that court. It was therefore not final and is of no effect. This court is entitled and required to declare it invalid. Logically, the report of 23rd June issued by the CEO, which was based on it, is similarly of no effect. That's his report of 23rd June. It follows that the appeal of Messrs. Ali and Jagdeo succeeds. We were addressed with great passion by some counsel to make a raft of consequential orders relating to the elections. In this regard, it's important to bear in mind that this case is essentially about jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction, the jurisdiction of the Court of Appeal, and even implications for the High Court's exclusive jurisdiction under the Constitution. This court's jurisdiction has been invoked for the sole purpose of determining whether the Court of Appeal lacked jurisdiction to entertain Davis' application and to make the orders it made. Once we decide that the Court of Appeal's order was made without jurisdiction and should therefore be set aside, there is nothing left upon which we ourselves would possess jurisdiction to make any further orders. To accept counsel's suggestion and proceed down the path that would be to engage in an exercise not dissimilar with the one embarked on the Court of Appeal majority, and which we have eschewed. It is for the Gecom to ensure that the election results are swiftly declared in accordance with the laws of Guyana. As Guyana's final court, we cannot, however, pretend to be oblivious to events that have transpired since December 2018. Indeed, we have had to pronounce on some of those events. It has been 4 months since the elections were held, and the country has been without a parliament for well over a year. No one in Guyana would regard this as a satisfactory state of affairs. We express the fervent hope that there would quickly be a peaceful restoration of normalcy. Now, the law must run its course. That's their decision.
Yeah, but where does it say that the recount order has been disposed of?
I am saying they haven't said that in this decision. But if one goes on to read in their ratio decidendi, one would see that in many instances they have reverted to the recount and the fact that they can have no impact. This whole question of changing the electoral regime and all of that would be found in the ratio decidendi.
What happens tomorrow?
Tomorrow the CEO has a deadline for submission of the report in keeping with the instructions which were given.
And are you expected to meet also?
I think so. It wasn't very explicit, but I think so.
Would you be coming?
Huh?
Would you be coming?
I'm a commissioner. Unless circumstances beyond my control, and such circumstances do occur, I will be coming.
But with a functioning CEO, can the chairman direct the Deputy Chief Elections Officer to perform the functions of the CEO?
She said if he does not. So she'll be doing that from what she said in the circumstances where he declines to carry out instructions.
And if he declines, she can direct the decision.
She has so directed.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen. So, as you have been reporting earlier on, we commenced at 10 this morning, at which time the chairman heard, I'd rather say, submissions from each commissioner on various issues, not lastly the Saturday last by the Chief Elections Officer, which I have said before is in clear and flagrant violation of very specific orders issued to him by the chairman on two occasions, on the 9th and on the 10th of July 2020, in written form. That notwithstanding, the chairman, after listening to everyone at around 12, adjourned the meeting to 2:30. Upon resuming, the chairman cited the CCJ judgment, which was handed down last Wednesday, I believe it was on the 8th, and delivered by the President of the Court, Justice Adrian Saunders. In that judgment, and she referred to reference in there as to from the genesis of Order 60, the necessity for it, the circumstances under which that order was crafted, and the utility and execution of that order by the Commission. And then she made reference to the findings of the Court of Appeal, particularly the majority of the court, Justice Don Gregory and Justice Brassington Reynolds, in which they found that Order 60 had the effect of altering the Constitution. She referred to the CCJ judgment in which that assertion of Justices Gregory and Reynolds were struck down by the CCJ and set aside. And she emphasized as well that the Court of Appeal has in no way, shape or form, howsoever or wheresoever in that judgment set aside Section 60, its effect, or any aspect of it. Order 60, sorry. She proceeded to say that the March 13th declarations, which includes the fraudulent declaration by Claremont Mingo, the returning officer of Region 4, has been set aside and replaced by the recount tabulation certificates. That, I believe, is a very important finding and ruling of the chairman. And then, in relation to Article 177(2)(b), which speaks to the Commission acting upon a report from the CEO, she says she views the role of the CEO as not higher than the Commission, but to the exclusion of extraneous persons or bodies. And as a consequence, the Commission is not subservient to the CEO. The CEO, she reminded, the CEO has the responsibility, is answerable to the Commission, and as a consequence must follow the dictates of the Commission. And lastly, she referred to paragraph 24 of the summary of the CCJ ruling, which says that the recount results must be used for the purposes of ascertaining the final results or the final declarations for the March 2, 2020 regional general elections held in Ghana. In light of that, she has ordered the CEO to present a report to the Commission using the recount numbers by 2 p.m. tomorrow, 14th July 2020. Now, prior to that is the summary of what has happened. But in the discussions, there was great advocacy by my colleagues on the other side for the use of the results, including the fraudulent Mingo results, which the world has spawned upon. And I find it rather distasteful because given the understanding and given the genesis of Order 60, the reason why we had to do a recount exercise that lasted in excess of a month was because of the very same fraudulent Mingo results that has caused and pushed this country into the state it is. And I will want to say that any person who advocates the use of those fraudulent results, particularly those of Claremont Mingo, can only be described as someone as part of the rigging cabal. And that's as much as I'll say in that regard. But before you go, in relation to the ruling, I am somewhat, the ruling of the chairman, I am somewhat disappointed that she did not go the full 9 yards and complete this process, but has thrown it back into the hands of the CEO, who has demonstrated over and over again a very recalcitrant attitude and a trend of wanting to, of actually defying instructions, specific instructions of the Commission. However, I am hopeful that given these very definitive positions as are enumerated by the ruling of the chairman, I am grateful that we are here, and I can only see us resolving this in as quickly and timely a manner as possible.
Based
what
on the
happens if-
meeting, do you
clarification,
think the
Mr.
CEO
Dunlap.
left with an understanding of what the chairman asked for today?
I didn't get that. Can you
Based
repeat?
on your interaction today, did the CEO left with an understanding of what the chairman was asking for?
I don't.
Directed him.
I don't believe that it requires any or it poses any ambiguity. My repetition of what has transpired in there, I believe all of you who have just heard me would understand that the CEO is directed by the chairman to prepare a report of the March 2, 2020 elections using the figures that are generated from the recount exercise as are contained in the certificates of tabulation that were generated from that exercise.
Did the CEO respond to this direction in today's meeting?
I understand that he will be, I believe and I'm hopeful that the chairman will write those instructions to him.
But did he orally respond, the CEO, did he orally respond to the meeting today?
If I tell you that he did, I may be misleading you because as I speak, I can't specifically recall.
What
And
if they
a
happen if the CEO
clarification,
doesn't?
Council, are you saying today that the chairman set aside altogether the 10 district declarations?
Yes, she has.
Today.
Yes, she has.
What about the previous reports from the CEO? Has those been set aside?
Well, those previous reports were based on those fraudulent declarations, and I will want to say by extension, those also have been set aside.
Did she give any other instructions? Let's say the CEO doesn't present that report tomorrow. I understand some instructions were given to the DCO.
She has not given instructions to anyone else. She has said, as obiter dicta, what she intends to do, but I will not rely on that. I will want to wait until I will want to wait and see what the CEO does. Let me say this publicly. I believe that he has a duty and an obligation to the Gecom Elections Commission, which is his employer, and which imposes certain statutory duties and control over him to present that report. But it is left to be seen.
In the obiter dicta that you referred, did she at all indicate whether she'd asked the Deputy Chief Elections Officer if he doesn't comply?
Yes, she did.
And how do you feel about that?
I have my own views on that. You see, when I said just now that I was disappointed, my disappointment comes from the fact that you have a repeat offender, a recalcitrant recidivist, who has done this over and over and over, right? And yet he is given another opportunity. But like I said, maybe my faith in humanity allows me to see, wait and see what he does. Insofar as it relates to the DCO, I have my personal views on that, but I would prefer to wait and see the outcome of it. I would not want to prejudge it. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Yes, Summit.
Right, Joe?